Well, there man, St Helier, look, they're all pretty, all lots of nice, interesting presents for Christmas. What to buy for people? A model aircraft kit, look, oh look, a Bristol Beaufighter, look at that, I could buy that for somebody. They used to make those in my city. Ah, this is more like it, look at this. An old-fashioned jewellery shop. Darius, look at that, isn't that pretty? Proper old-fashioned jewellery shop. Let me go in there and have a look and see what I can find.
Hello, Mr. Dunn.
Ah, here's the proprietor,
How are you, young man?
Mr. Pearce. I'm looking for some presents to buy for my nieces and all sorts of people. Nice little, simple little presents, something different.
Okay.
Could you suggest anything that's new, topical?
How about some Bitcoin?
Bitcoins?
Yes.
Is that anything to do with Brexit?
No, nothing to do with Brexit.
What exactly are they?
It's a decentralized system of exchanging value based on computer networks. You run what is called a blockchain, which keeps a copy of all ledgers on every single computer that's connected to this ledger. Downloads a copy of every transaction that's ever been done on it through a program called...
Well, it sounds more complicated than an electric train set.
It is. But obviously you don't need to do all of that. That's all been done for you. But
do you provide that service? Can you sell me the Bitcoin or whatever it is?
I can sell you the Bitcoin, yes.
Can you? Can you show me one?
No, they don't actually exist.
They don't exist?
No, there is no. It's only electronic data on either on a computer hard drive, or if you're particularly cautious, on a flash drive.
So what am I buying if I buy one?
You are buying, well, that's the interesting question, isn't it? You are buying a record on a ledger.
Really?
Yes. So,
does anybody keep a ledger in Jersey? Is the states of the Treasury of Jersey got a ledger?
No. The price of electricity is far too high over here to effectively run the ledger. I mean, I do download Bitcoin Core, but not.
Really?
I don't try and. The Bitcoins come from something that's called mining, which on this ledger you have to solve an algorithm, and then you are given a Bitcoin. Now, obviously, because one Bitcoin at the moment's around $16,000.
Really?
It does fluctuate an awful lot, but
a lot. You mean what would be last week, for example? What was the buying in price for a Bitcoin?
Well, in the last day, it's gone from €13,000 up to €18,000, and up and down and up and down. So it's.
So where's that missing 5,000 gone then?
Well, that's. How markets work is you take the price of the last one that was sold and you apply that same price to every single one that exists. So that 5,000 never existed in the first place. It's all theoretical money. Same as stock markets. Exactly the same way that stock markets work.
Really? Or don't work, as the case may be.
Or don't work, as the case may be. Obviously, stock markets are controlled by governments and banks. You will have seen the ECB is in trouble this week because they've bought €800 billion worth of bonds in a company that's just gone bankrupt or is just about to go bankrupt,
right,
which is going to really cause problems throughout the European Union. But in Bitcoin, there's maybe 1,000 early entrants who've been mining the ledger for.
Is there only one Bitcoin? Are there various other brands, as they say? There are other products.
There are other coins, various other ledgers, but obviously Bitcoin is the one that's been running the longest.
Right.
Bitcoin has no specific use. There is one called Ripple, for example, which is going to be used by banks to do interbank payments rather than the SWIFT system or the Chinese cross-border international payment system. I think it's called is probably the one that's going to win out in the end because it's backed by China and China makes everything. So
I mean, knowing that we live in the world where the driverless car is approaching, I shouldn't be surprised at all this. I mean, it's that sort of super unreal aspect of finance.
If you think what's happened to various industries recently, obviously a lot more automation has come in. Even when I was working in the banking sector, I remember they brought in automated levying of bank charges, because obviously it was a lot of effort for a member of bank staff to actually put a charge on a bank account.
Right.
And I happened to be working in the management accounts section, and we went from 1 month to the next, and the amount of fees charged was astronomical. And we did put a provision just in case people moaned, but surprisingly nobody moaned that they'd been charged. It was according to the agreement, but we did make a provision to give some back. But
Well, I'm only a young chap, but I used to get I used to have checks. I used to write out paper checks, bank checks, and they used to come back to me eventually. They all used to come back to show that they'd all been paid in properly. Nobody even wants checks these days. Nobody would take the damn things.
they're very expensive to bank now. It's £1.50 for me to pay in a check to my bank account, or £1.50 for me to write a check.
So how do bitcoins relate to that? I mean, could bitcoins take over where checks used to be? Could it be a form of payment? But obviously, if it's unpredictable, it's not going to be a very reliable form of payment.
If I'm going to say I am going to pay you in 30 days' time,
Right.
if I say I'm going to pay you 1,000 Bitcoin,
Right.
how do I know how much that is?
Indeed.
If I say I'm going to pay you £5,000, I know it's £5,000. The difference is there's certain bills that I have to pay in pounds.
Right.
I have to pay the government in pounds because the government won't accept anything else. Any employment contract has to be denominated in pounds because there's a minimum, because you have to have an hourly rate, so it has to be in pounds. Your mortgage is in pounds, so your landlord is going to charge you rent in pounds so that he can pay his mortgage.
I mean, our currency has been reasonably predictable over a period of a few months in recent years. But the friend Mr. Mugabe and his government, they managed to make their money virtually valueless, and you had people, rather like the German situation, billions or millions and millions of whatever their unit of currency was, because the money was devalued to the point of ridicule, wasn't it? So that can happen with money, can't it?
Well, originally you have in your pocket £1 sterling.
Right.
So literally, you used to be able to go to the bank, give your note in,
Right.
and they would give you £1 of sterling silver.
Right.
£1 of sterling silver, I think I worked out the other day, was about £280. So where's that £279 gone?
Indeed.
So every country does. That's what inflation is. Basically, it's an increase in the supply of money, which obviously the more of a thing that there is, the less each thing is worth.
So if I happen to have bought some bitcoins at £1 a time,
Yes.
somebody, I mean, the fact they've gone up and down, whatever, they're going to go up and down, I'm guaranteed anywhere to get my pound back?
You will. No. There's no guarantees.
Nothing
And
at all.
you'll have spent all that money on electricity, and
Right.
a friend of mine's just taken out an £11,000 loan to buy a Bitcoin mining rig, which is some
Right.
serious computer hardware. That he's never going to get that money back unless he sells the Bitcoins. But obviously, if you start selling Bitcoins, the price of them goes down.
Right. You had some bitcoins yourself. You played around. You had a
We
few.
do. For the last week or so, I've been buying and selling, exploring the space.
Right. Exploring the space.
I've made about half an ounce of gold over the course of the week.
Half an ounce of gold.
Because for me, gold is money. Not I consider gold money.
Well, you're a
but then
gold fan, aren't you? You believe in gold.
So yes, but buying and holding Bitcoin, I know, is not for me, because I get too panicky as the price goes up and as the price goes down. I either get too excited or too panicky to bother to hold it. So at the moment, what I do is I sit with the cash on the side, and if someone wants to buy Bitcoin from me, then I'll buy the Bitcoin and
Stocks
transfer
and
it.
shares are never that volatile. I remember the one, the great, what was it named after the shipwreck? It went up, phenomenal. Everybody was on it. They were going up. Oh, it was going up. It's going 200, 300. It was going like that. But that's very exceptional, isn't it? Stocks and shares generally have a bit of a predictability about them.
Stocks and shares are pretty tightly controlled by banks and governments. If you think of, who owns most of the value in stocks and shares? It's actually you, in your pension fund.
Right.
Your pension fund owns stocks and shares, which pay a dividend, and that's where your pension money comes from. That's where that, as the government says, they need to make a 7% return on the pension fund in order to pay your pensions.
Just as I was coming in today, I was hearing about the Bulgarian government, which has got 17 billion
Yes.
Bitcoins.
Yes.
Where on earth did they get that from?
There was an ongoing scam. Many senior customs officers in Bulgaria were colluding with other people to import drugs, and they were taking bribes, and they were putting all the money into Bitcoin. When they first arrested these 5 customs officials,
Right.
it was about $5 million.
Right.
But because the price of Bitcoin's gone up so much, it's now I think it was over 300 billion,
So they've done the government of Bulgaria a big favour then, really.
But can the government of Bulgaria ever expect to realise that? That is the value. That is the market
What do
value
they do
of
with them? How do they get rid of them?
If they started selling that much Bitcoin,
Right.
They are one of the 1,000 whales who owns
Right.
the vast majority of Bitcoin. If they started selling it, the price would fall very, very rapidly, because there is the demand there to meet the supply that there would
Because
be.
we
if
keep
they
hearing,
sold.
well, there's the guys in, about silver. They tried to corner the market in silver.
The Hunt
suddenly.
brothers, yes.
Right, they tried to buy the world's stock of silver, which is a preposterous, but they were doing quite well on it, weren't they? They were accumulating.
They were backed by certain people who removed the backing later. So it's silver is my investment advisors all tell me that silver is the one thing you should buy, because not only is it money, it is also used in all these computers which are mining Bitcoin. It's got medical applications. It's the best antibiotic there is. You may have heard of colloidal silver, which a lot of people drink to keep their body free from.
Yeah, yes, I've heard about these.
Silver is a precious metal which does have industrial uses, and they're actually mining less than they're using. So the actual supply of silver in the world is dropping every year on year. Plus, there's people stacking silver, which is what we call buying coins and hoarding.
Well, of course,
it.
the people who are actually issuing the certificates, or whatever they are, for Bitcoins, they can produce as many as they want. They can say they've got a limitless supply, can't they?
Well, it is limited and it is unlimited, because in each ledger there is a certain number of coins that can be produced. I think in Bitcoin it's something like 20 million. But that doesn't stop you from opening up another ledger. So you might have heard of Bitcoin forks.
No,
So you started with the Bitcoin ledger, and then they forked, and it went into Bitcoin Cash, or Bitcoin Gold, or Bitcoin Diamond. So they've had 3 forks already, and they are fresh ledgers built on. They go so far along the Bitcoin ledger, and then they break off. But the original ledger continues.
Now, various governments, I think China was going to open a Bitcoin market, and then another country was going to close the Bitcoin market and not allow it. Governments seem to have different views on it.
China did shut it down. Completely shut it down. When it first hit 5,000, if you look at the chart, it started to go down. That's because China banned it all.
Oh, right.
And I think they are allowing it again. But I can't see how any government is going to allow it in the long term, because a lot of the government. Inflation is the government's hidden tax by devaluing the value of your savings. Of course,
when the Bitcoins first appeared on the horizon, I seem to remember our great economic guru, Senator Ozaf, was dead keen on them. He seemed to think that there was scope for Jersey to be involved in Bitcoins, but I haven't heard any more since.
It's the cost of electricity. It's simply too high here. Simply uncompetitive, completely uncompetitive.
Right.
That they are launching Bitcoin futures on the COMEX. In fact, that was done yesterday, and the first trades have already gone through, and the future price has gone up. But from what I see, the actual volume, the number of trades that's going through, is very, very small. So they were having wild.
This all happens on the wonderful world of the internet, does it? All this?
Not on the COMEX. The COMEX is the main trading floor for most.
Is there anything you can show me on your screen that I could take a picture of and say, look, that's it going on. There's the world, like Bitcoin, all busy away, like a bee's nest, all busy beavering away.
Well, on my phone, there's the Bitcoin chart.
Right.
That's for the past day. You'll see how much it's gone up and down. If we go for the past year, you'll see how much it's gone up. That's basically gone from 610 up to nearly £12,000.
So everybody who got in at low price has made fortunes?
No.
Is that the theory?
On paper.
On paper, right.
On paper. You'll find that most people who buy Bitcoin are buying and holding it. So they've not actually realised.
Well, they're not going to make any more than that. If they bought at 600 and it's now gone to 12,000, they're not going to make. I mean, they ought to cash in their chips, didn't they? If they can cash them in.
Well, it's very much like gold. Gold will, as long as the value of your currency, as long as there is inflation, the value of a pound will continually decline. You'll probably remember when I was young, you could buy 4 sweets for a penny.
Right.
When you were young, you probably buy 2 sweets for a penny. And now a penny is just virtually worthless.
But if I was an investor, I seriously bought it for £600, £500, and they've gone up to 16, and the market's a bit sticky. I'd say, well, okay, I'll sell them at 14, and you bet buyers at 14. Well, the price is they'd make 2,000 profit, so they'd be up for that one, and you'd have made a wonderful profit, wouldn't you?
Yes. So you've made a profit, and then you're hit immediately for 40% capital gains tax.
By whom?
By the government.
This one, or
Well, particularly recently in America, there's just been a massive court case because of the 20,000 users of the site Coinbase, which I just showed you on the phone. Only 800 had actually filed capital gains returns with the IRS, so they've now got all their documents, and I expect to see several people going to prison for a very long time as an example for tax evasion. Governments are going to win from this because they're going to win on capital gains tax, and now that the COMEX has moved in, I expect to see the banks start to
Jersey
control
likes
the
to
market.
cash in on other people's failures, because if there happen to be trust funds here stuffed full of bitcoins and it all went gaga, the government would come here, would say, okay, we're going to build another hospital out of that, use that money, seize that money, share it with America, as they do.
As happened in Bulgaria, we do have the legislation for that over here, which
Really?
some of which went to build the police station, as I recall.
Right.
We have the proceeds of crime.
Exactly.
So yes, I mean, it is a possibility over here, but on a practical level, I always take the view that the internet was built on pornography. Most of the investment that went into developing the internet was to provide pornography to people, which was a nefarious. It's not something you wanted everybody to know. The internet was perfect for that.
Right.
What activity is going to drive Bitcoin? There is nothing that there's. Another app that I have on my phone will allow me to trade between euros and GBP without a fee.
You still got traditional jewellery which people buy at Christmas. You remember the famous man with his prawn sandwich? What was his name? Ratner.
Oh yes.
Is he into bitcoins? Does he come bouncing back as he got into them?
Well, jewellery's very difficult, isn't it? Jewellery's very, very, very specialised.
But he just, like that, all of a sudden he destroyed his shop by just making one silly comment. And
No, he didn't destroy it. Ernest Jones is still trading. Samuel's still trading.
Right.
That's just Ratner's by a different name. That's how they do it. You probably see the Ernest Jones adverts on this Christmas.
Well, they're looking very classy
Very
adverts.
classy, but once you actually look at the pieces, as long as you understand what quality is about, you can see where they've shaved a penny here,
Really?
shaved £5 there. The diamonds aren't the same quality as you'd get in other places.
And the Bitcoin marketing, whoever is marketing it, does look quite classy, doesn't it?
Bitcoin marketing it's for me as a libertarian, it's quite libertarian market. This is the fight against government. We're going to do away with the corrupt banks and the corrupt governments, but unfortunately it's controlled by basically 1,000 people. Now they're going to have a war with the established banks, and I expect the established banks to win in the course of time because they have the government on their side.
So if you were my advisor for Christmas presents, what would it be from you? Train sets or jewellery or Christmas puddings?
Just the gift of love, Mike. That's there is nothing more valuable than that.
Well, that's a very pleasant sentiment. Is it entirely transferable? I shall have to investigate this. I should come back with you and do a further interview in the new year and see how that advice worked out.
Thank you.
Cheers.